Some breaking news here. A devastating 115-page report just dropped that exposes exactly what FBI agents really think about their director, Kash Patel. And look, I want to be clear about something from the jump. This isn't some partisan hit job from Democrats. This comes from an alliance of active duty and retired FBI agents and analysts, the same group that previously railed against the Biden administration's DEI policies. So according to the report, the FBI has become all fucked up and a rudderless ship under Patel's leadership. And if you're looking for an anecdote that might sum up perfectly why that leadership is failing, it doesn't get worse than this. It was the day after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Patel flies into Provo to oversee the investigation. You would think that the FBI director would be laser focused on catching the killer, right? You'd think he hit the ground running, be ready to coordinate with agents on the scene. Not so much. Instead, here's what actually happened, and I'm going to read directly word for word so that you can see the full breadth of what it looks like when a self-important podcaster is in charge of a law enforcement agency. Quote, according to Alpha 99, FBI Director Kash Patel arrived at the Provo airport in Provo, Utah on September 11, 2025. Alpha 99 said that after his plane landed, FBI Director Kash Patel would not disembark from the plane without an FBI raid jacket. FBI Director Kash Patel apparently did not have his own FBI raid jacket with him and refused to step down from the plane without wearing one. Alpha 99 went on to say many FBI special agents and other FBI personnel were busy working in the aftermath of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and that FBI personnel had to stop and ask around to find an FBI raid jacket, a medium-sized one that would fit FBI Director Kash Patel. Alpha 99 said that there were many large and extra-large FBI raid jackets available. Finally, according to Alpha 99, FBI personnel searching for a medium-sized FBI raid jacket that would fit FBI Director Kash Patel finally found one. That raid jacket, Alpha 99 said, belonged to one of the female FBI special agents. Alpha 99 said that the raid jacket belonging to the female FBI special agent was then delivered to FBI Director Kash Patel on the plane, but as he was inspecting the jacket, Director Patel noticed two areas on the upper sleeves near the shoulders that did not have Velcro patches attached. FBI Director Kash Patel then reportedly said he would not leave the aircraft until he had two patches to cover those areas. Members of the FBI SWAT, Special Weapons and Tactics team, took patches off their uniforms and ran those patches over to FBI Director Kash Patel at the airport. The patches were then attached to the loaner FBI raid jacket, and FBI Director Kash Patel disembarked from the plane. So that we're clear, SWAT team-trained federal agents who should be focused on national security had to literally rip patches off their own uniforms and run them to the airport so that the FBI director could have his Instagram moment. And all the while, the investigation into Kirk's killing was being delayed because Patel needed to make sure that he looked the part for the cameras. And perhaps most tellingly, Dan Bongino, the deputy FBI director, later called and apologized to an agent in charge of the Kirk investigation after Patel had berated him with an expletive-laden tirade over perceived blunders, saying that should never have happened. Even Bongino knows that Kash Patel is out of control. And by the way, this isn't my characterization. Patel reportedly did not make a positive impression on FBI personnel during that visit. Sources described him as in over his head with neither the breadth of experience nor the bearing an FBI director needs to be successful. One source who identified as a Trump supporter said Patel is not very good, maybe insecure, and lacks the requisite experience or the measured self-confidence to be FBI director. In fact, one source said both Patel and his deputy director Dan Bongino need to stop talking, stop posing, and just be professional. Which brings me to the broader point here, because this jacket incident is just a symptom of a much larger problem. Multiple sources in the report made it crystal clear what Patel and Bongino are really focused on. Agents said that they're, quote, spending too much time on social media and public relations and are too often concerned with building their own personal resumes. Another source complained about their unfortunate obsession with social media. One agent even said they often find out about FBI news first on social media rather than via internal communication. Think about that. FBI agents, the people actually doing the work, are learning about their own agency's operations from Kash Patel's Twitter feed instead of through proper channels. That's not leadership, that is influencer culture masquerading as federal law enforcement. But here's the thing. The FBI is not a content creation studio. It's not a platform for Kash Patel to build his brand. It is the nation's premier law enforcement agency tasked with protecting Americans from terrorism, espionage, and violent crimes. And when the director of the FBI is more concerned with getting the perfect shot for his next post than with actually doing the job, then it's the entire country that suffers the consequences of that. As for Dan Bongino, his deputy, sources described him as something of a clown and said they strongly believe that neither Bongino nor Patel Patel had the experience to effectively deal with top-tier threats facing the country. In one particularly disturbing anecdote, several FBI agents were shocked when Bongino told personnel at a Western FBI office that the truth is for chumps. The deputy director of the FBI, an agency whose entire mission revolves around uncovering the truth, said the truth is for chumps. That tells you everything you need to know about what these guys value. I should note too, this report wasn't leaked to some left-wing outlet. This was obtained by Miranda Devine of the New York Post, who is a reliable Trump backer at a pro-Trump outlet. The fact that it was leaked to her specifically suggests that even Trump-friendly sources want this information out there. They want Donald Trump to see it. They want the public to see it, because the FBI, under Patel's leadership, has become such a disaster that even people who want him to succeed are waving red flags. And in fact, those red flags have resulted in some unfortunate consequences for Patel himself. Here's Congressman Jamie Raskin announcing a probe into yet another scandal that's plaguing the embattled FBI director regarding his use of the government's private jet. So it looks like Kash Patel's luck might have run out a little bit. Can you explain the new investigation that you and your committee have just launched into him?
Well, it's the oldest story in the book. He's just looting public funds for private use. So he's been using a government jet for personal flights and lavish vacations. He's been taking his girlfriend on overnight dates on a $60 million government jet that's supposed to be used for government purposes. He's done a Scottish golfing excursion with his buddies, again on a government jet. He's taken a trip to a luxury hunting retreat called unbelievably Boondoggle Ranch, which I think of as the name of the whole scandal. I mean, basically, the guy who was the least qualified FBI director in history and has utterly politicized the department and turned it into a weapon against Trump's political enemies is just abusing all of the privileges of the office for personal use.
The reality is that running the FBI is one of the most important jobs in America. It requires experience, judgment, and an ability to put the mission above personal ambition. What we're seeing with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino is the opposite of that. We are seeing two men who view the FBI as a vehicle for their own personal brands, who prioritize their social media presence over actual law enforcement, and who, when faced with a critical investigation, worry more about how they'll look in photos than about catching killers. The FBI deserves better. The American people deserve better. And if Donald Trump won't do anything about it, then Congress needs to step in and hold these guys accountable. Because the longer Kash Patel and Dan Bongino treat the FBI like their personal content studio, the more danger that all of us are in. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.